Welcome to Space Drift. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The year 2025 marked a turning point for US-Canada relations. What had long been a model of cross-border friendship and economic partnership was suddenly thrown into turmoil, sending shockwaves through both nations. Decades of cooperation gave way to conflict when President Trump imposed a sweeping 25% tariff on Canadian goods. The announcement came without warning, catching both governments and businesses off guard. For many, it felt like the end of an era. The move shocked Canadians, who saw it as a betrayal by their closest ally. Newsrooms buzzed with disbelief, and conversations in homes and cafes turned anxious and angry. The sense of trust that had defined the relationship for generations was suddenly in question. The economic partnership, once seamless, was suddenly under threat. Trade routes that had been busy for decades slowed to a crawl, and uncertainty gripped businesses on both sides of the border. Prime Minister Trudeau responded with retaliatory measures, vowing to defend Canadian interests. But the real response came from ordinary Canadians who felt the impact in their daily lives. Across the country, a grassroots movement took hold, one that would reshape consumer habits. From bustling cities to rural towns, Canadians began to organize, determined to show their unity and resilience. When tariffs jumped to 35% in July, any hope for a quick resolution vanished. Prices soared overnight, and the cost of everyday goods became a new source of frustration for families everywhere. Experts predicted the hardline stance would last, fueling Canadian resolve. Analysts debated the long-term effects, but on the ground, the message was clear. Canadians would not back down. The trade dispute became personal, touching national pride and daily life. Dinner tables and coffee shops buzzed with talk of tariffs, and the maple leaf became a symbol of quiet resistance. Canadians decided to fight back where it mattered most, the grocery store. Shopping became an act of patriotism as people scrutinized labels and made conscious choices to support their own. The message was clear: if the US penalized Canada, Canadian consumers would penalize US companies. Boycott stickers appeared on American products, and protests spread to fast food chains and retailers. Food became the battleground, with US products suddenly viewed with suspicion. Shoppers who once reached for familiar brands now hesitated, weighing their choices with a new sense of responsibility. Grocery shopping turned into a political act, as Canadians rejected American goods. The aisles told a new story, one of solidarity, sacrifice, and a determination to weather the storm together. The boycott was no longer just about economics. It was about identity. It was about standing up for Canadian values and showing the world that unity could be found in the most everyday actions. What started as a political spat now shaped the choices of millions. The movement grew, drawing in people from all walks of life, and the boycott became a defining moment in the nation's story. The border, once open and friendly, had become a symbol of division. Where there was once easy passage, there was now uncertainty and a sense of loss. The simple act of shopping was now a statement of defiance. In every store, with every purchase, Canadians sent a message. Their unity and resolve could not be shaken, even in the face of unprecedented challenges. The Buy Canadian movement swept across the nation like a quiet storm, fueled by a deep sense of patriotism and a growing spirit of protest. What began as a simple call to support local businesses quickly transformed into a powerful, unifying force that brought Canadians together from coast to coast. This wasn't a government initiative or a top-down campaign. Instead, it was a true grassroots uprising, sparked in living rooms, community halls, and neighborhood gatherings. Ordinary people took it upon themselves to organize, educate, and inspire their friends and neighbors. Canadians, feeling targeted by outside pressures, made a conscious choice to support their own producers and shield their economy from foreign influence. Families flocked to farmers markets, eager to buy local and keep their dollars circulating within their communities. Polls soon revealed a remarkable shift. Over 80% of Canadians were actively replacing American goods with homegrown alternatives. The movement was no longer just talk. It was action, visible in everyday choices. In stores, shoppers scrutinized every label, determined to find the maple leaf. They demanded Canadian products and rejected US imports, sometimes even leaving items on shelves as a quiet form of protest. The shift was unmistakable. Aisles once dominated by American brands now showcased Canadian alternatives. Store workers found themselves rearranging shelves, making room for new local favorites. Local media and radio hosts amplified the message, interviewing small business owners and sharing stories of communities rallying together. bulletin boards filled with flyers urging neighbors to buy Canadian. Retailers like Vince's Market saw a surge in customers insisting on homegrown goods, asking questions about origins, and celebrating every Canadian purchase. The movement was more than a hashtag, it became a collective stand, spreading across social media and into daily life. People shared tips, posted photos, and encouraged others to join in. Shopping carts, once just a tool for errands, became symbols of political conviction and national pride, filled with Canadian-branded items and maple leaf stickers. The boycott's message was unmistakable. Canadians would not be bullied or pressured. Their response was peaceful but resolute, sending a clear signal to both sides of the border. This quiet rebellion, born from everyday choices, would soon have real consequences for both nations, reshaping trade and relationships in ways few could have predicted. The power of consumer activism was on full display, proving that even the smallest decisions can spark a movement and change the course of history. As the boycott gained momentum and more Canadians joined in, a new and unexpected problem began to surface in grocery stores across the country. This problem became known as maple washing, a deceptive practice that would soon frustrate shoppers and undermine their efforts. Some retailers, feeling the pressure of the boycott, began relabeling American-grown fruits and vegetables as Canadian, hoping to trick even the most careful and determined shoppers. Carrots, citrus, and leafy greens that had been imported from the U.S. suddenly appeared under bold "Product of Canada" signs, making it nearly impossible for consumers to know what they were really buying. The true origins of these products were often buried in tiny print on the back of the packaging, requiring a magnifying glass or sharp eyes to spot the truth. Shoppers who had gone out of their way to support Canadian farmers felt outraged and betrayed, realizing their efforts were being quietly undermined by misleading labels. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency was soon inundated with complaints, as frustrated consumers from coast to coast reported the widespread mislabeling and demanded action. The iconic maple leaf, once a symbol of national pride and trust, was now being used as a tool for deception, eroding its meaning for many Canadians. The trust that once existed between shoppers and their local stores began to crumble, replaced by suspicion and doubt. The controversy shone a harsh light on the vulnerabilities in Canada's food labeling system, exposing just how easily accountability could be sidestepped. What began as a clear and united boycott was now clouded by confusion, suspicion, and mounting frustration among consumers. Instead of simply avoiding foreign produce, Canadians now found themselves fighting deception and demanding honesty in their own grocery aisles. Frustration over maple washing spilled into grocery aisles. Shoppers confronted staff, documenting mislabeled goods and demanding answers. Some took matters into their own hands, correcting signs with markers to reveal true origins. Trust in major retailers collapsed, driving many to independent grocers and farmers markets. The boycott, meant to target U.S. policy, now disrupted Canadian retailers. Shopping became a battleground for truth and transparency. The movement forced stores to rethink their practices. Canadians were no longer passive consumers, they were activists in the aisles. The boycott sent shockwaves through both economies. U.S. food exports to Canada, worth billions, faced sudden decline. Canadian products saw a surge in sales, boosting local farmers and manufacturers. Supermarkets scrambled to meet demand for Canadian goods. But the integrated supply chain meant disruptions hurt both sides. Some Canadian products relied on U.S. ingredients, complicating the boycott. Maple washing scandals cost retailers trust and money. The trade war's economic risks became clear. No one was immune. Consumer sentiment proved a powerful force, hitting bottom lines hard. The message economic pain could be delivered by shoppers, not just politicians. The impact reached beyond groceries. Canadian tourism to the U.S. plummeted. Cancellations soared, costing the U.S. billions in lost revenue and jobs. The chill spread globally, as Europeans also began avoiding American brands. Major U.S. companies like Tesla saw sales drop overseas. The Canadian boycott was part of a worldwide backlash against U.S. policy. Brand USA's reputation suffered, showing how political actions ripple across borders. In a connected world, even friendly neighbors can become reluctant adversaries. The Canadian food boycott of 2025 was a lesson in consumer power and its limits. Grassroots activism turned shopping into protest, sending a clear message to the U.S. But the movement also revealed unintended consequences: deception, confusion, and eroded trust. The complexity of global supply chains made ethical choices difficult. The boycott's legacy is mixed national solidarity, but also frustration and doubt. It showed that consumers can drive change, but only when they can trust the system. The front lines of trade conflict aren't in government halls. They're in everyday choices. The story is a reminder. Even the best intentions can have complicated results.